A hit and run at a downtown university campus. 4 people are injured, and the search for the driver continues this hour as witnesses describe a terrifying ordeal. We're expecting a police update in about 15 minutes.
And Honda Canada denies a Japanese report suggesting that the automaker is shifting its production to the U.S. We're going to tell you what the provincial and federal governments are saying.
Plus, Donald Trump was the focus of Doug Ford's throne speech at Queen's Park today. We'll have more on the PC's plan to tackle tariffs, and we'll tell you why opposition parties say that speech missed the mark.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thanks for joining us here on Live at 5.
We're following breaking news. 4 people have been hit. This is in a hit and run on the TMU campus downtown.
Yeah, let's go right to the scene now. Our Beatrice Faisman has been speaking with witnesses. She joins us with the very latest. Beatrice, I went to school there, and drivers are not allowed where you are.
They're not. I'm standing right along Nelson Mandela Walk, Lena. This is a pedestrian walkway. There should never be any vehicles along this walkway. It's lined with trees and benches. It's how university students from TMU go from one building to another. It's also used as kind of an artery to get between Gould Street and Gerrard. And this afternoon, it has turned into a crime scene. It was just before 2 o'clock this afternoon that police say that a vehicle started traveling along this pedestrian walkway, striking 4 pedestrians. CP24 learning 2 of those pedestrians were rushed to hospital by paramedics, one of them suffering serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The other 2 were checked out by paramedics here at the scene, but were not transported to hospital. I spoke with one witness named Isaac, who to me described hearing an engine almost revving before the sounds of multiple people being hit. When he looked out of a window in one of the TMU buildings, he said he saw one person seemingly unconscious near one of the benches here along this walkway. A second person he described seeing with injuries to their leg. And so here's a bit of what we heard from Isaac, and you'll hear from another witness as well who talks about the response from TMU and the communication to students on campus. Listen.
One student, her feet got injured, like this, and then the doctors from the ambulance just put some ice on her feet, and but they are the one. I mean, the person who I found was lying down beside the bench. I saw that he has lost the conscious.
Okay.
So the doctor just put him to the ambulance car and took him back to the hospital.
They posted a TMU safe thing, and they just said that there's an incident on campus, just be careful on Gerrard Street. Not much information on the victims and stuff, but yeah, it was just to tell people to be wary.
And police have put out a suspect description at this point, Lena and Bakari, as well. Suspect vehicle described as a dark green sedan with a cracked windshield, no license being provided at this point either. You just heard from Isaac, who I spoke to inside one of the TMU buildings. He joins me now live in this laneway as well. Isaac, I know you and I had a conversation inside. If you can, just tell our viewers what you saw and what you heard here this afternoon.
Okay, so the situation goes like that. At approximately 1:50 p.m., I was studying in this building, but suddenly I heard a sound like boom. It was very similar to the car accelerates, and then some of my friends sit beside the window just saw that. They just shouted, "Oh, come and see! A car crushed the students from the north side to the south side." Then I feel very scared, so I also rush to the side of the window. But at that moment, the car had been gone, and then I came out to see what was happening. I just saw a guy who looked like an African Canadian. He was lying beside of the wooden bench, on the grass. Some people tried to call him, but he had no reaction. So I could tell that he had lost the conscious. It was pretty scary, And at the same time, I also saw that there was also a girl who was white. It looks like her feet got injured, and one guy called the police, and they also called the ambulance. After approximately 5 to 10 minutes, 4 police cars and 4 ambulance, and also 1 fire truck. They came to here. Yeah. You can imagine. You can imagine at those moments. Oh my God, it was pretty scary. And I saw that the doctor. It looks like they put some ice or bandage on the girl's feet. But for that guy who was lying beside the bench, the doctor just took him to the hospital. But whether he could be okay, will be okay or not, I have no idea. Yeah.
We hope so. We heard he's got serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Isaac, the area we're standing, cars are not supposed to be here, right? It's usually a very busy area with lots of students here too.
I'm a student in TMU, and I know that the vehicle is strictly forbidden in this part. Yeah, and this part can also can only allow students to go. Yeah.
How are you feeling as a student? What kinds of conversations were you having with your friends and fellow students here this afternoon?
So in this afternoon, after that, my friend just and I just talk about just predict what will happen, and will the guy come to here again and crush the student again. So we felt very scared. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Isaac. I really appreciate you talking to us. Thank you. Thank you. As for what police are saying, Lena and Bakari, we're going to hear from Duty Inspector Todd Jocko. We were expecting a press conference around 4 o'clock. It got moved to 4:30. We're now hearing 5:15. So in the next few minutes, we should have a live update here from police. Of course, the biggest question to them is going to be about intent. I'm hearing that the person and the vehicle is still at large, but intent is going to be one of the biggest questions as well. What was the intention of this driver? Of course, they'll have to find that person first to find that question. Lena and Bakari.
Okay, Beatrice, we're about 9 minutes away from that press conference. You've been on campus in that area since right around 3:30. Can you tell us what's the mood been like on campus, especially in that area?
Certainly students are feeling pretty unnerved. I mean, you just heard Isaac a moment ago saying that students are feeling quite frightened by this, that they're feeling, almost uneasy. And you might see a commotion happening around me now. We're just waiting for this police update to start momentarily. But exams are ongoing. There's not been an interruption to classes at TMU. Lots of students up there studying as well. I had a chance to go in and talk to some of them. They're still studying. They're still going about their business, but certainly they're feeling a bit nervous. Steve, I'm just live on CP24. Is there an update as to when the press conference is going to happen?
5:20 will be starting.
5:20.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5:20, that press conference is going to happen, according to Acting Staff Sergeant Steve Hammond at the scene. So, of course, we'll carry that live for you.
Yeah, we'll take you right back to that scene. Beatrice Vaisman on TMU campus tonight following the very latest. Thanks so much for that, Beatrice, and we'll check in with you soon. In other news, 3 tow trucks were set on fire in Brampton overnight.
And police were called to a residential area on Buffridge Trail. This is near Huron, Ontario, and Wanless. It was just before 1 o'clock in the morning. When they got there, they found 2 trucks on fire. One was in the driveway, another in the street, and the fires were extinguished. No one was hurt. At this point, police are calling the incident suspicious, but they haven't released any information on possible suspects.
Now, take a look at this. This video shows the second truck being towed away from the driveway of a home for further investigation. Residents in the area talked about what they saw.
My daughter's bedroom is right there.
Yeah.
They live, and she heard an explosion, like somebody coming through. There was a truck here.
Yeah.
2 big trucks. And it started like the fire.
Yeah.
And the fire got worse and worse.
It's a big fire.
Big fire. But was 2 trucks.
Yeah.
So I was confused, and I'm scared because I have my 2 vehicles here.
Yeah. It was scary, I assume, being so close to it.
We were just sleeping, and our neighbor woke us up yesterday, and we come out and we saw fire trucks, the black one that's on the road and the one on white one. Mm-hmm. On fire at the same time, and I guess because they're diesel fueled, we heard after a while just pop, 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 pop.
Like explosions. That's what your neighbors are describing.
Yeah.
Is that what you heard?
100% explosions.
Really loud?
They were loud. Loud enough that even my neighbor down the street that I spoke to this morning said he heard it down in the dead end street. So
it's concerning, I'd imagine, being so close to this.
100% concerning. I mean, you're real close to home. We always hear about crime around our neighborhood, and I mean, this is real close to our house.
I kind of saw like lights, like red and yellow lights kind of like through my window. Yeah. I thought like it was just maybe like someone turning on their car or someone, like we get like sometimes like people will have parties or kind of like turn on their car in the middle of the night. So it wasn't alarming at first. And I did hear like the sound of the car turning on. So I thought maybe someone was just starting their car, but then I started hearing popping noises and it got bigger and bigger. And that's when I looked at my window and I immediately took pictures because I was like, I was scared it was going to get bigger and then like blow up my car.
Well, right around the same time, police said another tow truck fire was reported nearby at Brisdale Drive and Venetian Terrace. No injuries were reported at this scene either.
All right, it's 5:10, 6 degrees out there. Let's get a check on your evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa and Siayabwa. Hey there, Adj.
Hey there, Lena. Yeah, the crawl home is definitely underway. You didn't name the route. You're definitely running into delays. A problem, though, to deal with on the southbound lanes of the 427 in the collectors. This is just as you approach Rathburn, actually Burnhamthorpe. They just moved the camera. So it is in the collectors. It is that left lane and shoulder that is blocked now, and that is what is impacting and slowing down your drive through this stretch. No problems if you're headed towards the 401. That's a good thing, but the delays are there. Very busy go and starting to see a little bit of light rain and flurries mixed in with your drive as you make your way through Yonge and then heading into Scarborough. Same situation. It's slow regardless. On the northbound DVP, delays from Dundas all the way through to the 401, but at least it's checking in problem free as you make your way through that light rain and flurry activity. And on city streets, collision blocking lanes on Lawrence. It's just east of Victoria Park. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
And the Ford government laid out its priorities for the new legislative session today. Responding to the trade war with the U.S., that was chief among them.
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor Edith Dumont delivered the speech from the throne this afternoon. It is meant to set the agenda for the sitting of the legislature. It included a promise to build a tunnel under the 401 to tackle GTA gridlock and pledged unprecedented amounts of energy production. The speech also focused heavily on guarding Ontario against the impact of American tariffs and making the economy more resilient.
Your government will continue to monitor the impact of President Trump's tariffs and stands ready to support the sector most impacted. The federal government needs to do the same. Every cent of revenues raised through Canada's reciprocal tariffs needs to be shared with workers and businesses as quickly as possible. Paychecks and livelihoods are depending on it.
All right, the pomp and circumstance began at 1 p.m. CP24's Arda Zakarian was there and continues to get reaction to the throne speech at Queen's Park.
And Arda, this was all about the U.S. president. Donald Trump was named a dozen times in that speech.
You bet he was. So this is really all about the future of Ontario is what we saw. And of course, our future is closely intertwined with Donald Trump at this point now. Edith Dumont did say one of the main things was making trade between the provinces less difficult, cutting that red tape. She said no restrictions, no red tape, just free trade within Canada. And tomorrow, Doug Ford is set to table a legislation that would make interprovincial trade much easier. Mining was also a big highlight, making that process easier. Usually takes about 15 years to designate a land that's able to extract those critical minerals. And then they said about for refining it right here in Ontario as well. But there were some critics, of course, the leader of the opposition as well as the leader of the Liberal Party. Both of them had some concerns.
We know that in other cases, sometimes the government has used these opportunities to do away with important laws that protect people at the expense of, calling it red tape. At the end of the day, what do we need to do and what are we going to fight for here in the province of Ontario over this session, right? We're going to be looking to protect workers, protect working people's jobs. We're going to be looking at building Ontario and with Made in Ontario solutions, and we're going to be looking at growing our Made in Ontario economy.
I was also concerned about the commitment to the Fantasy Tunnel under the 401. This is a 40-year project that will cost in the neighborhood of $200 billion and will do nothing to alleviate the gridlock that exists today. And so certainly I think that money would be better invested in our schools to repair the backlog of our schools and invest more in public transit rather than in roads such as the 401, especially when we have an alternative at the 407. There certainly could be discussion. So, this is all very new to me.
We also heard from the leader of the Green Party who said we can't cut corners when it comes to getting an area of land approved for mining, especially when it comes to the environment. Other highlights include $46 billion of investment into the auto industry. We know this from Doug Ford's campaign, expanding energy production, including nuclear, that tunnel, of course, the 401 tunnel, working with cities to build housing, investments in public education, clearing encampments. This was something that was tabled before the election. It got dropped, so they're looking into doing that again, and tightening the catch and release bail system. So we do expect to hear more from Doug Ford tomorrow about cutting that red tape for the interprovincial trade. We'll see what that's all about, what he has to say. Back to you.
It's going to be a busy legislative session. Arda Zakarian live at Queen's Park tonight. Thank you, Arda. It is now 5:15, 5 degrees out there, and you're watching Live at 5.
Well, coming up, Honda's refuting a report out of Japan that the automaker is looking at relocating Canadian operations to the U.S. amid the ongoing trade war.
Honda Canada says its facility in Alliston will operate for the foreseeable future. This comes following a report out of Japan, which has a lot of people talking today. That report indicates the automaker is looking at relocating Canadian operations to the U.S.
CP24's Melissa Duggan is following the developments this afternoon and joins us right now with the latest. Melissa, there's been a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, the story evolving throughout the day. Actually, we're just getting some new information just now coming from Canada's Industry Minister, Anita Anand, just posting this online saying, I have just finished a productive meeting with the CEO of Honda Canada, Dave Jamieson. He confirmed that Honda remains fully committed to its operations in Canada and that there are no plans to shift production elsewhere. This being the most definitive answer we've gotten so far after a day that started off with an alarming report out of Japan, the Nikkei newspaper, saying that the automaker was planning to move or looking into moving its operations out of Canada, out of Mexico, and into the U.S., something that would deeply impact the community north of Toronto, Alliston, where that Honda plant employs some 4,200 people, making some 400,000 vehicles a year. Now what we're hearing from Honda, what we're hearing from various officials now, including Anand, is that it looks like Honda is staying in Canada, at least for the foreseeable future. I'm going to share more of what Honda is saying in just a moment, but we've got a lot of reaction coming from a lot of officials throughout the province today. Have a listen.
We're going to keep Honda here, and I'll do everything I can to protect the people and their jobs. And that's what this throne speech is all about today, is making sure that we protect people's jobs, protect communities and businesses right across the province. We have to streamline processes to make sure we're more competitive around the world.
It's not a story anybody wants to read, but specifically for Honda, this is a company that made the biggest investment and a commitment in its company's history to Ontario about a year and a half ago, because it sees a 10 to 20 year arc. We're all willing and happy to work through it with them if this is true. But frankly, I also know where their supply chains are located in Canada and separately in the U.S. and in Mexico. And if anybody is equipped to handle Donald Trump in the short to midterm, it definitely is Honda.
And the reaction we're getting from Honda Canada today, just to kind of paraphrase the message that they're putting out, is that they have no changes in the foreseeable future coming to their plant in Alliston. Back to you.
All right, let's take you live to Toronto Metropolitan University now, where police are updating the public on a hit and run on campus. Let's listen in live.
Scene. and 2 others were transported to hospital. We are awaiting confirmation to the extent of their injuries. I can also confirm that none of the injured individuals are students or staff here at the university. The vehicle is described as a green sedan with a smashed windshield, and it has a license plate number DEDZ565. Again, Delta Echo Delta Zulu 565. It's still early in this investigation, but at this time it appears that it may have been an intentional targeting of a specific individual on the walkway. We are still working to confirm all of those details. However, at this stage, it appears to be an isolated incident. As soon as we're able to provide more information about the possible suspect, we will do so. We understand that an incident like this, these incidents raise a lot of concerns for people. We want to assure the public that we are actively investigating and taking all necessary steps to ensure public safety. Again, this investigation is in its early stages, but I can take a few questions.
Do you believe that the windshield, Inspector, was broken as a result of the collision with one of the pedestrians?
I don't have that information at this time.
Can you talk?
Still early in the investigation.
Inspector, could you talk about how you arrived at the theory that this was, an intentional ramming or targeting of one specific person? Is that person providing, their witness testimony? Did they recognize the driver?
So again, it's early in the investigation. We're speaking to all witnesses who are here and reviewing video surveillance that's in the area. But I can't get into any specifics about the relationship of the people involved or the those details of the investigation.
A lot of people concerned here about the fact that a car could get onto a pedestrian walkway in a busy pedestrian area. There are signs saying pedestrian areas. How could this happen in a city like Toronto, where we've seen other car attacks before? And I think in many areas of the city there have been precautions and bollards and planters put up, concrete barriers in front of the courthouse. But here, how was a car able to get down here? Is that a concern?
Well, obviously, it's a concern. Anytime that something like this happens, we need to look at the circumstances and do what we can to prevent that. Again, it's still early in the investigation. We are taking all the necessary steps. We do have a strong working relationship with the staff here and the security here at Toronto Metropolitan University, and that's something that we can certainly and will have to look into.
Is there any indication the vehicle was stolen?
I do not have any information that is to indicate that it's stolen.
You provided vehicle description and license plate. Do you have a description on the driver? Is male, female, approximate age that people can keep their eye out for?
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's still in the early stage of the investigation, and any information that we have pertaining to the suspect or more information about the vehicle, we can provide as soon as possible, but I don't have any at this time.
You say this was intentional, and in your belief it's intentional. Is this a domestic situation? Can you speak to the relationship between the victim and the suspect?
I can't confirm their relationship. I can just say that it appears to be parties that are known to each other, but I can't, again, I can't speak to the nature of their relationship.
Is there any indication where the vehicle went? The earlier update said in the direction of Church Street. Is that as far as you know?
The information I have is the vehicle left the scene going eastbound on Gould Avenue.
What about how the vehicle arrived here? Have you seen video surveillance that kind of forged a path for the vehicle to end up here? Were they following this person?
Again, it's early in the investigation. All of that information is going to be coming to light, and any pertinent information we'll be providing when we can to the public.
So from the public, do you need dash cam video? What do you need now? Because obviously this vehicle's at large as the suspect, and you need to know where it is, obviously, right?
Absolutely. We are actively looking for the suspect and the vehicle. We are actively, as part of our investigation, reviewing any available surveillance video and speaking to witnesses. If anyone has information, by all means, please come forward. Any bit of information that might be useful, no matter how small, is important to us. And again, you can also report that information anonymously using 416-222-TIPS.
Dash cam video, do you want that?
Again, thank you for that. Again, if anyone, any video, dash cam, cell phone video, anything that you think would be useful or you think might be a piece of this puzzle, please come forward and let us know.
The person that was targeted, male, female, do you have any other, description as to the people who were hit? So you mentioned none of them were students or staff.
Yeah, again, none of the involved parties are staff or students here at the university, but I can't get into the descriptions of the potential victim or potential target. 2
people taken to hospital and one was serious. Is that person the person that you believe was targeted?
Again, the people that are at the hospital, they appear to be bystanders.
A couple more questions.
They're bystanders, not the person that was targeted by the person driving the vehicle?
Yes. Yes.
Were all 4 people hit by the car? There's 4 people injured. Were all of them received injuries from being hit by the vehicle?
Again, it's still early in the investigation. We have our traffic services are here assisting with their portion of the investigation. I can tell you, I can confirm that 4 people were injured. 2 went to hospital and were waiting to the extent of their injuries, and 2 declined medical. Their injuries were so minor here at the scene, they simply left.
Is there any evidence to suggest the driver got out of the car at any point during this?
I don't have any information to that occurred. I don't have any information from what the university has provided or not provided, but I do know that we have a strong relationship with our partners here at the Toronto Metropolitan University. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. If you have any information, please contact 51 Division or Crime Stoppers at 416-222-TIPS. Thank you.
We are following breaking news from Toronto Metropolitan University campus tonight, that is, where police say a car drove through a pedestrian walkway. 4 pedestrians were injured. The driver is still at large, and police say this may have been an intentional act. Investigators believe the driver was targeting an individual on the walkway. We're also learning none of the victims are students or staff. The suspect vehicle is described as a green sedan with a smashed windshield, and investigators are appealing for witness information.
Yeah, and the license plate for that green sedan with the smashed windshield, it is Delta Echo Delta Zulu 565. Police say that it was last seen going eastbound on Gould Avenue. So keep in mind that this all happened right around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So their appeal is for any video of that area during that time. If you don't want to contact police directly, you can just call 416-222-TIPS. Right now,
2 people are in hospital tonight with injuries as well. We're going to have much more on this coming up. You're watching Live at 5. We'll be right back.
A hit and run at a downtown university campus. 4 people are injured. The search for the driver continues this hour as witnesses describe a terrifying ordeal.
And police say they believe this may have been an intentional act, and investigators think the driver was targeting an individual on the walkway. We just received a police update. We'll have much more on that coming up. Plus, Honda Canada denies a Japanese report which suggests the automaker is shifting its production to the U.S. We're going to tell you what the provincial and federal governments are saying.
And Donald Trump was the focus of Doug Ford's throne speech at Queen's Park today. We're going to have more on the PC's plan to tackle tariffs and tell you why opposition parties say that the speech missed the mark.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
I'm Bakari Savage. Welcome to Live at 5. We continue to follow breaking news. 4 people have been hurt in a hit and run on the TMU campus downtown.
Let's go right to the scene now. Our Beatrice Faisman has been speaking with witnesses, and police just provided an update. Beatrice, they believe this was a deliberate act.
They do. And, last half hour when we were having this conversation, I mentioned intent is going to be the key part of this police investigation. And now we have an idea of the intent that police are alleging this afternoon. The duty inspector who we heard from just a few moments ago saying this is a situation where this dark green sedan driven by someone mounted this pedestrian walkway and intentionally was trying to strike someone in particular. It was a targeted situation. According to police, 4 people in total were struck by this vehicle. The 2 that went to hospital, they were not the intended targets of this driver. Here's what we heard from Inspector Todd Jocko.
It's still early in this investigation, but at this time, it appears that it may have been an intentional targeting of a specific individual on the walkway. We are still working to confirm all of those details. However, at this stage, it appears to be an isolated incident. As soon as we're able to provide more information about the possible suspect, we will do so.
Reveal at this point, Lena and Bakari, is the relationship between the person that police allege was behind the wheel and the intended target. In fact, police didn't have any description of the suspect, wouldn't even say if it was a male or female at this point behind the wheel of this dark green sedan. The license plate, according to police, Delta Echo Delta Zulu 565. So they've got the license plate, they've got the vehicle ID'd. It's got a cracked windshield, police say, so keep your eye out for that. But they did not say anything about the person they suspect was behind the wheel, nor would they elaborate on the relationship between that person and the person police say this driver was actually targeting on this walkway. It's called Nelson Mandela Walk. It's a pedestrian walkway in between two TMU buildings, the library and another building, used frequently by students and staff from Toronto Metropolitan University. We did hear this afternoon none of the 4 people taken to hospital, or pardon me, none of the 4 people struck by this vehicle were students or staff. 2 people went to hospital with paramedics, one of them suffering serious but non-life-threatening injuries. I spoke earlier this afternoon to a young man named Isaac. He's a student here at TMU. He tells CP24 what he saw, what he heard. He describes hearing an acceleration before this driver struck multiple pedestrians. And you'll hear from the local city councillor here, Chris Moyes, who came to the scene to provide support to students and staff as well. Listen.
I was studying in this building, but suddenly I heard a sound like boom. Yeah. It was very similar to like the car accelerates, and then some of my friends sit beside the window just saw that. They just shouted, "Oh, come and see! A car crushed the students from the north side to the south side." Then I feel very scared, so I also rush to the side of the window. But at that moment, the car had been gone.
What you may not know is, when that van incident happened up at North York many years ago, I was actually present and witnessed what happened at that time. And I know how traumatic that was at that time and even to today. So when I actually heard of this afternoon, like it took me back to that period of time. And I made a call to the superintendent of 51 just to make sure that, everyone is okay and there were no fatalities. And he reported that no one was, seriously injured that we're aware of. So that brought me some relief.
And so, Councillor Moyes, are talking about some of the trauma experienced when you see something like this happen for the TMU students who witnessed it or saw the aftermath. Certainly, they're feeling very unnerved. Again, this is a pedestrian walkway they take each and every day to get from building to building on campus. It's also used by pedestrians just to get from Gould to Gerrard as well, to cross through a thoroughfare. Cars should not be on this pedestrian walkway. But this afternoon, this turned into a crime scene just before 2 o'clock when a vehicle, a dark green sedan, according to police, driven by someone who was targeting one person in particular, mounted the sidewalk and rammed into 4 people. That person and the vehicle, again, a dark green sedan, license plate Delta Echo Delta Zulu 565 with a cracked windshield, still at large. Police quite eager to find it and the person they believe is responsible for this.
Okay, Beatrice, we are still waiting to learn more, as you said, about the relationship between the driver and the person who was targeted here. But the 4 people who were struck on scene on that walkway, did they know each other? Was this a group or just individuals?
Police provided very little information about any of these pedestrians. They wouldn't tell us males or females. They wouldn't provide ages. The paramedics telling me when I first spoke to them as I was driving to the scene here that they were all adults. Police also, again, not commenting on the relationship between the person they say was targeted here this afternoon on the TMU campus and the person they allege was behind the wheel. They wouldn't say if this was a domestic situation. I asked if police tracked the movements of this driver and vehicle leading up to this incident to see if this driver was essentially lying in wait, waiting to see their intended target. They simply wouldn't comment at this point, just simply saying these were not students, these were not staff members of TMU, all 4 adults. And thankfully, everyone is expected at this point to make a full recovery, though one person does remain in hospital with serious injuries.
And also, Beatrice, looking at either end of the walkway, are there any barriers in place to prevent cars from just directly driving onto the path?
There are not. No barriers at all, Bakari. And when you kind of enter this area, it's almost like you're entering a driveway. There's a divot from the curb. And so it looks like it's in that divot that the car managed to get onto this walkway area. It's not very long, again, just separating Gould and Gerrard. You can see right through it behind me on the other side of that far police vehicle in the other end of this crime scene here. But no, there's no barriers. And that was a question asked to police as well. Why aren't there barriers? Why aren't there more pillars, for example, that are installed like they are outside of courthouses? Police almost create these barriers around the Rogers Centre when there's a Blue Jays game, for example. Why aren't there more barriers put in place in a setting like this, a university campus, where there's just constant flow of people throughout? Back to you.
Baseman on the TMU campus with more on our breaking news tonight. Beatrice, thanks so much for this. And now let's check in with Chris Lewis, former OPP commissioner and CTV News public safety analyst. Chris, good to be with you tonight. What are your initial takeaways as you listen to this police update?
Yeah, I actually missed most of the update, but I know the facts so far. And ultimately, it appears that they're leaning towards being a deliberate act to hit at least one of the people in that group. We'll know more. Obviously, everybody is alive, thankfully. They will probably, somebody will have some idea who or what or why this occurred. There'll be lots of witnesses. There'll be videos undoubtedly will appear, as they always do, either from storage or from individual cameras. And this is one of those ones that Toronto Police will crack fairly quickly, I believe.
Along those lines, Chris, the search for the driver, that is the concern right now. We know it's a green sedan. We do have the license plate number, and it was last seen going eastbound on Gould Avenue. Let's talk about the importance of those details in this search.
Yeah, very important, obviously. So they know what they're looking for. Can the vehicle be hidden? Absolutely. But is it owned by somebody? Is it associated to a specific person that they can track down? Was it stolen? If that's the case, then there's another part of the investigation that will occur to try and figure out who stole it. And once they get that vehicle, if in fact they do, and they likely will, they'll be able to associate it forensically with actually striking the individuals involved. Lots to unfold for sure. Lots in the kind of balls in the air. Was it a deliberate act just to kill individuals, like a terrorist type attack or something like we saw in Yonge Street years ago? Or was it, as it appears, likely trying to hit somebody and hit some others in the process?
Chris, I remember going to TMU several years ago, a number of pedestrian walkways. You really have your guard down when you're in an area like that on campus, focused on getting to your next class. Can you talk about how terrifying this may be for the students who witness this?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's when anything like this happens, whether it is a terrorist act, I'm not suggesting it is or not, it still scares the heck out of people. It forces people to kind of look at their routine and change their activities out of fear. And then walking in that area from this point on, for many years, people will be afraid. And so, that's one of the sadder aspects of all of this is the impact it has on so many lives, besides obviously those that were hurt. But, how do you protect every single area from this sort of thing happening? We've had lots of talk, particularly after the Toronto van attack and different cases in the city where, well, why can't we put up more barriers? Why can't we have higher curbs and on and on? And absolutely, if you could snap your fingers and do all of that, it'd be wonderful. But how do you still solidify the entire world to protect someone from deliberately hurting someone? It's pretty tough to do. Thankfully, nobody was killed in this case, and I hope the police will grab the guy fairly quickly.
Chris, I heard you use the words terror attack, and obviously, that's part of the investigation that hasn't been explored yet. What would police be looking into on that front?
Well, ultimately, if in fact somebody in that crowd knew the individual and they get on to, whether it's his vehicle, et cetera, get on to him, look at his social media, do an investigation all around him, you see if there was some sort of political leaning or some sort of situation where the individual's been drawn into supporting some group. And I'm not suggesting in a million years that is the issue here, but they're going to want to eliminate that or prove it one way or another. Likely it was more a personal vendetta of some sort, as opposed to based on racism, religion, politics, and that being bent in that way, that ultimately that's the motive for doing it.
Okay, former OPB commissioner and CTV News public safety analyst Chris Lewis, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Three tow trucks were set on fire in Brampton overnight.
Police were called to a residential area on Buffridge Trail near Huron, Ontario and Wanless. Just before 1 a.m., they arrived to find two trucks on fire, one in a driveway and one in the street.
The fires were extinguished. No one was hurt. And at this point, police are calling the incident suspicious, but they haven't released any information on possible suspects.
And this video shows the second truck being towed away from the driveway of a home for further investigation. Here's more from residents who talked about what they witnessed.
The window was exploding, and the gas and the tires of the vehicle. It was a big fire.
And it spread quickly.
Yes.
You must have been scared living so close to
it. Yes, very, very scary, yes, because are very close.
Yeah.
And after, again, the police come to see me and what happened. This is a rental house. Yeah. Since they did that, it's really bad. This is I live 20 years here.
People are on an edge. It's a great little pocket here still, and hopefully we don't see a lot of for sale signs coming up soon. So, but it is concerning around here. So, and I mean, this has been going on for about 4 months over here. Legal activity here, meaning condominiums, which I call it around the area and all that. And yeah, listen, I knew this was going to escalate somehow. I didn't think it was going to be this bad.
I just been in contact with my neighbors. They've all just been texting me, telling me to move my car, but I was scared to get out and move in case anything blew up or exploded. And so it was pretty, I'm still a little bit shaken. Haven't really slept since then, but hopefully, as long as everybody's physically okay, I'm more at ease. So it just seems to be the vehicles that are damaged.
Right around the same time, police said another tow truck fire was reported nearby at Bridgedale Drive and Venetian Terrace. No injuries were reported at this scene either.
It is 5:45, 5 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And the Ford government laid out its priorities for its third term. In today's throne speech, we're going to have reaction coming up.
Welcome back. The Ford government laid out its priorities for the new legislative session today and talked about responding to the trade war with the U.S.
CP24's Arda Zakarian has been getting reaction and joins us live from Queen's Park. Arda.
Right. The trade war with the United States was front and center in the throne speech. And one of the highlights of the throne speech was making interprovincial trade easier, cutting the red tape, making it less difficult. No restrictions, no red tape, free trade within Canada is what Lieutenant Governor Dumont said in her speech. Tomorrow, Doug Ford's government is set to table a legislation that is set to do exactly that, is to cut the red tape and to open up interprovincial trade. Mining was also another highlight, and approving and mining critical minerals, getting that approval system going much quicker. Right now, it takes up to 15 years for that to happen. And then once the critical minerals are mined, opening up refineries and refining it right here in Ontario. However, the leaders of the opposition and the leader of the opposition and the leader of the Liberal Party, both of them did have their own concerns. Here they are.
Not only do we have to address the reality that working people are facing right now, working people and their communities are very concerned about the loss of jobs and opportunities right now. They are seeing the rising cost of everything. There was nothing in this budget, or rather this throne speech, that actually addresses the cost of living for everyday Ontarians, or, working people losing their jobs and what their kind of support they're going to get. What I find concerning in this throne speech and many of the messages that the government was sending was that rather than seeing a path ahead, we're seeing, I think, a race to the bottom. That will be my concern. That will be what we're looking at as we consider the legislation the government is going to table.
I must say that as a proud Ontarian, I'm very concerned what it will do to impact the lives of people of Ontario, especially those facing affordability crisis, people who are losing their jobs, jobs which are relocating to the United States. There's no investment in our healthcare sector, not what is needed, our education sector. And I, for one, am very concerned.
Other things to note, expanding the energy sector, including nuclear, building highways, including that tunnel that's going to be under the 401, working with cities to build housing, investments in public education, tightening also the catch and release bail system. But tomorrow, looking ahead, we are looking forward to hearing more from Doug Ford and doing away with the red tape and the difficulty for interprovincial trade. His government has said that right now it's easier to trade with the United States than it is interprovincially and with the territories. Back to you.
Okay, providing live coverage all throughout this afternoon. CP24's Arda Zakarian from Queen's Park. Thanks, Arda. Right now it's 5:50, 5 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Honda is refuting a report out of Japan that suggests the automaker is looking at relocating Canadian operations to the United States amid the ongoing trade war. We're going to have lots of reaction right after this.
Honda Canada says that its facility in Alliston will operate for the foreseeable future. This comes following a report out of Japan, which indicated that the automaker is looking at relocating Canadian operations to the U.S.
CP24's Melissa Duggan is following developments this afternoon. She joins us with the very latest now. Melissa, there's been a lot of reaction to this.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, all under the cloud of those U.S. tariffs and the situation that Canada finds itself in right now. And so much reaction throughout the day, really pointing to just how on edge the auto industry here in Ontario is, given this tariff situation at the moment. It all started when we heard that report out of Japan, people waking up to the news from Nikkei newspaper today, reporting about a situation with Honda, saying that it was working on plans to move development and its production out of Canada, out of Mexico, relocating it to the U.S. The idea there, producing cars in the U.S., selling it to that massive American market to avoid those tariffs. A move, of course, that would result in a relocation of the Alliston plant that's north of Toronto, a plant that employs some 4,200 people, produces some 400,000 cars a year, so a major plant there. But throughout the day, the stress kind of eased as we heard from officials, as we heard from Honda itself, saying that there are no plans right now to make a change like this. I want to share what Premier Doug Ford had to say. Have a listen.
We're going to keep Honda here, and I'll do everything I can to protect the people and their jobs. And that's what this throne speech is all about today, is making sure that we protect people's jobs, protect communities and businesses right across the province. We have to streamline processes to make sure we're more competitive around the world.
Some clarification finally coming from Honda Canada when they released a statement today. I want to share that with you. It says this was not an announcement by Honda, and we cannot comment on the specifics of this morning's headlines. However, we can confirm that our Canadian manufacturing facility in Alliston, Ontario, will operate at full capacity for the foreseeable future, and no changes are being considered at this time. We constantly study options for future contingency planning and utilize short-term production shift strategies when required to mitigate negative impacts on our business. And then it was later in the day that we heard from Anita Anand, that is our country's industry minister. She said she had a productive meeting with the CEO of Honda Canada, someone who Anand says said that operations will remain in Canada and that there are no plans to shift production elsewhere. Back to you.
On the back and forth with Honda, CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa, thank you. Well, it's 5:56, 5 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And we are following breaking news from Toronto Metropolitan University campus tonight, where police say a car drove through a pedestrian walkway, striking 4 people. 2 people are in hospital this evening, and investigators now say the incident may have been intentional. We'll be right back with more.